Right now, I'd like to do a little video relating to once upon a time, many decades ago. Um, I lived up on a small mountain in northern Maine. I was there for about 9.5 years, something like that. I left the mountain in November of 1994, just to give you an idea. We're talking a long time ago. But what this video is really about is, interestingly enough, I say that a lot if you see my other videos. I don't know where I ever got that. Interestingly enough, but that's what I say. 9.5 years, apparently, to be out of the world is a long time. For example, when I re-entered the world, changes had occurred. For example, up on the mountain, about 9.5 years, off the grid, that kind of thing, windmills, solar panels, just to paint a picture for you. Very rustic log cabin with many, many leaks. About a 40-minute walk to the road where the nearest neighbor was, that kind of thing. What else do I want to say? Moose, bear, coyote, all that good stuff. And so when I finally left the mountain after almost a decade, changes had occurred in the regular world. Now, where I lived, it was kind of like whatever was going on, movies-wise, technology-wise, and all that stuff in the regular world of the United States or whatever, didn't really filter through to where I was living. A good friend came to visit me. And while he was visiting, I guess we talked about a movie I'd seen that I thought was new. And he's letting me know it's been out for years. It only just now made it to where I lived for some reason, you know. But that was interesting. My friend was from the city. I was in my 40s, late 30s or 40s. I guess I got to the mountain in my like mid 30s. And when I left the mountain, I was in my 40s somewhere. But anyway, my buddy, he was from the city, different state and everything, you know. And he found, and I thought this was interesting, what he called the silence was unnerving to him, because you know I'm way far away from the road and all that, and I just thought that was interesting. It was unnerving to him, and in my mind, it wasn't silent. You know, I mean, there was a sound of the wind through the trees. There was a sound of the birds and just lots of stuff. But because he had come from the city, big city environment, to him, it was like this silence, and it was unsettling to him somehow. And I just thought that was really interesting. I mean, I had come from that environment once upon a time, but by the time he came out to visit, I'd already been there for, I don't know, I guess a bunch of years, you know. And so him being fresh from the city and telling me that, like I said, it was like somehow unnerving to him, the silence. To me, it was like, whoa, I'd already graduated way past if I'd ever even thought of it as being silent. I guess I must have in the beginning, but then, you know, just became accustomed to it and noticed all the the myriad sounds of nature itself, you know. So I thought that was interesting. What else did I want to tell you about that? Because on occasion over the years, I've I've seen different people do posts, like on different websites or whatever, and they'll be talking about their homesteading experience and all that. And apparently, people find that really interesting. So I thought I would share a little of my experience today, and just for fun, see if it does attract any interest. So when I got back into the real world after all those years, um, changes, differences. For example, um, I thought they were kidding when people would tell me that there were movies on buses. Yeah, it's like, yeah. You know, I've been out of the mix for a long time. Let's play a joke on the mountain guy. That kind of thing. And I was traveling far from the mountain because I was leaving the mountain behind, that kind of thing, and re-entering, as I call it, society. And so part of that trip was taking a bus. There was no movie on that bus, but I met people later that were telling me about how buses play movies. And in my mind, it's like, well, airplanes play movies. I mean, I know that. I mean, I've seen movies growing up before the mountain that show people on planes watching a movie. Okay, so you're trying to, you know, have a joke on me and convince me that they do it on buses now. Well, I don't think so. Well, it turns out that was real. They really did have movies on buses. And I thought that was like, oh, that's kind of cool. That's way cool because I didn't believe it. I thought they were just, pulling my leg kind of thing. What else can I tell you? I ended up from the mountain, uh, which was actually a place called Lille, Maine, state of Maine, and the town was Lille. I don't know what it's like now, but I mean, it only had a population of like maybe 350 or something. We're talking, you know, way small town. Um, and what was I going to say about that? Okay, so that's where I came from. And oh, okay, from there, I ended up in Bangor, Maine, which is it's way bigger, you know, home of Stephen King, at least at the time. And I actually met Stephen King, but the thing is, I didn't know it was Stephen King at the time. He was just a guy, with messy hair, and he was with a group of guys that I was talking with. I just walked up and I was chatting, and I had no clue. I didn't. I mean, I had enjoyed his books over the years, um, but I guess it's probably good that I didn't know it was Stephen King because as I interacted with the group, um, and I don't even recall if I interacted with him specifically, but it was like maybe a group of 4 or 5 guys just, and I had walked up and was talking, and if I had been consciously aware that he was in that group, maybe it would have influenced my behavior in some kind of way that wouldn't have been so comfortable or pleasant or whatever for me, but because he was just a guy, you know, he's just a guy, right? So after the fact, I realized it, and it was like, oh wow, okay, cool. But okay, so what was I going to say about that? Okay, Bangor, yeah. Um, my first probably week in Bangor, about like that, week or a week and a half. Remember, where I came from, there weren't even streetlights, you know. Um, so I mean, there was hardly any activity. The nearest town, the nearest big town, which wasn't a big town, to where I lived, was about 10 miles away, and it was called Madawaska, Maine. And back when I lived there, it didn't even have streetlights. They just weren't there, you know. And as for driving and stuff, I mean, all you had to know how to do really was dodge a moose, and they're pretty big. Although at nighttime, you know, I'm telling you, watch out because they are big. You know, I mean, yeah, your car will mess the moose up, but you may not walk away from that one either. So, what did I want to tell you about that? Ah, I was crossing the street. Now, I grew up in a city. I grew up in a city, you know, a real city. But I'd been off the grid, if you will, for so long that I had lost my ability, my street savvy reflexes, um, in the sense of the first time I tried to cross an intersection in Bangor, uh, I nearly got nailed by a taxi, you know, and the driver was yelling and swearing at me. You know, it's like, you know, so that was uncomfortable. Also, when I was, and it took a while to get over this, but um, as my, I forget if I mentioned because this is my second take on this. The first video I was making, it just wasn't working out. I think I mentioned a buddy came up to visit me on the mountain, and he was unnerved by the what he called considered to be the silence, the quiet. Now, me, when I re-entered society, what was hard on me, I mean, it was hard, man, was the noise. Um, you know, I mean, the houses were all close together. I mean, I'm used to this now, you know, because this was a long, long time ago. I left the mountain back in 1994. Okay, but um, in a way, I felt kind of like Tarzan goes to the big city. Um, I'd be sitting in a room in a house, and the first month certainly was overwhelming to me, um, because not only was I hearing people in rooms around me, which was, you know, almost a decade of not being used to that kind of thing, but, and maybe my senses were, um, well, certainly my senses were being overwhelmed by all the harsh noises. I was used to the sound of birds chirping and wind moving through the trees and coyotes, you know, I mean, for real. And literally, um, moose, a herd of moose running through the woods. Those were the sounds I was used to. But the sounds of somebody coughing in the next house, because the houses weren't really far apart where I was. I mean, I guess it would seem normal to me now, but you know, I mean, I could hear somebody cough in the next house, you know, and it was just so completely overwhelming. It was hard, man. It was really hard. But one of the challenges I had, you know, after being on the mountain so long, and I had a job, a seasonal job while I was on the mountain. So, I mean, I would go and, interact in that way and stuff. But I mean, I had gotten used to, and this is going to sound really strange to people, probably really strange, but come on, I lived on a mountain, and I did seasonal work. And as crazy as it might sound, I had gotten used to just wiping my hands on my clothes. So one of the challenges, you know, wiping my hands on my clothes. If I got my hands dirty on something, just wipe them on my clothes. I don't know. It just kind of gradually happened over, those years. Um, One of the challenges I had when I re-entered the world was learning to stop wiping my hands on my clothes. I was getting my clothes all dirty. I don't know. Maybe I'm eating chicken or something. I mean, you don't want to wipe that on your clothes if you're not living in the woods, with the coyotes and bears. And it's probably not a great idea to smell like chicken grease around bears anyway, but you know what I mean. So yeah, that was a big challenge. I had to mentally remind myself to not do it, and it wasn't easy. It was like it's not that right away I would catch myself before I did it. No, I would do it, and then I'd be like, oh man. So yeah, I finally managed to work my way out of that. I don't know how long it took. It didn't happen in just a week, though, I can tell you. Another thing, another thing was the ability to urinate. I mean, maybe this is TMI, too much information, but literally, it was one of the challenges. I was used to just, you know, being able to go most places and have no problem urinating. It's like even where I worked, it was in a bit of a well, I ended up doing seasonal work in a cedar mill, and man, that was crazy. Supposedly, they were supposed to, and it was an outdoor kind of thing with a open area where the wind could just be there. If it was windy, it was there, But there was no heat. It wasn't heated. But wait, I'll get back to that in a moment. So I mean, my coworkers. I mean, there wasn't even a bathroom. There wasn't an outhouse. There wasn't a porta potty. If we had to urinate, we would just urinate, and if we had to defecate, then we would just do that. Further away from the actual work environment, but the urination that would just like happen, not on the floor, but just there in the yard. So what was I saying about that? Oh, that sucker got cold, man. I'm telling you, every winter, um, my I would lose feeling, in my feet at work, and then it would just gradually, finally go up about maybe this high in both legs, and where there was no feeling. I was just, from my perspective, it was like just walking on stumps, because the feeling was gone from like around the knees and down. It was really uncomfortable and crazy dangerous, really. It's the kind of job where the stress factor was, and at least for me, just always there because, you know, um, messing up in an environment like that can be very unforgiving. But still got all my fingers and body parts, so yay. But um, I was just always aware that, you know, the danger was always real, and I didn't take that for granted, really. But anyway, let's get back into um, after the mountain. yeah, the challenge of, um, it annoyed me. It really annoyed me. I was so used to just being able to urinate, you know, just walking down the street, you know, because between one town and the next town, there was just a lot of like woods, off the highway. You're just there. And it was just the easiest thing in the world, to relieve myself if I needed to. So when I went back into the city environment, it took me a long time to stop being annoyed about that. And even after all these years, I'm still not completely used to the idea of it being so sometimes challenging to um, take care of myself on that level. You know, it was just way nicer just to be able to not have to be concerned about it. I know this is way too much information. I'll move past that. But yeah, it made an impression on me. How ridiculously hard it could be to find a proper location to relieve oneself. What else do I want to share with you? What I'm mostly wanting to talk about right now is how the challenges were for me, the challenges that I faced as I re-entered the world. So yeah, being overwhelmed. I mean, to the point where I felt like I was going to melt down with all the sounds around me. People, even talking in the next building and in the next room, and so overwhelming. But I finally got used to it again. And of course, as I mentioned, the challenge relating to stopping, wiping my hands on my clothes. And I guess that's about it for now. Mentioning movies on buses, I thought that was a joke, wasn't a joke. Um, so once again, I kind of thought they were exaggerating or it was a joke. Remember, I was gone for like almost a decade. So now I was in Portland. I learned this one in Portland, Maine. I lived in Bangor, and then I moved to Portland, Maine. I was in Bangor for maybe like 6 or 7 months, but perhaps I've already shared enough to make this an interesting post. As I said, I've noticed over the years people, at least in the idea of watching homesteader videos, they seem to be interested. Well, this is a video about some of the challenges I faced leaving a mountain existence. Anyway, if you have found this to be interesting and if you would like to hear more of what life on the mountain was like, let me know. Leave a comment, give me a thumbs up, share, what do you call it? Subscribe, that'd be cool. It just occurred to me to do this. Yeah, I guess I should have made notes first, but like I said, I've got almost a decade worth of stories in relation to living on the mountain. So if it sounds like something that you would like to know more about, let me know. A comment really lets me know. I mean, a thumbs up is great. Give me that like for real, if you will. Be so kind. But what was I saying? Oh yeah, literally leaving a comment saying, yeah, I'd like to hear more of that. Because some of it's, I'm certain, it's got to be colorful. Also, let me know where you are. Where are you in the world, or what city? Maybe you're even in one of these towns that I've mentioned. Perhaps you even know from your personal experience what some of this story may be like. I'd love to hear about that from your side too. What did you experience? Have you ever transitioned from mountain life into city life and have had similar experiences relating to the overwhelming for me anyway. Cacophony of noises and sounds and voices. And whew, I don't know. Let me know. Anyway, I guess that's it. Please like, subscribe, and share. And leave a comment. I would love that. Thanks for listening. I hope you have a beautiful reality. Right now, it's January 2024. And, well, you know what's going on. Good luck to us all. Give yourself a hug. You deserve it.